Alright.
Okay, now we're live.
Alright, we're good. Okay. Cool. Alright, so welcome to our 5th workshop on Unity programming. We're gonna go about UI. It's a terrible joke about UI. Let's see. Yeah.
Oh, get
You're never in this workshop. Shut the fuck up. Alright. So, come on, UI. So Unity renders all your elements under an object called the canvas, which means that if you don't have an object under a canvas, you won't be able to see it. From the start, you can actually notice that if you have an object in a position, it has a transform component, right? If you actually put something in a UI, it doesn't have a transform component. It's called a rect transform, which is, it behaves very similar, but it's more of a UI oriented.
It's got different forms that it can appear in depending on things like anchoring.
Yeah.
But everything that is UI is housed within the canvas.
Yeah.
Because
So
it's a separate part of Unity.
yeah, it's gonna be like if you put like a layer and you put it in front of the camera and you like put a sticker in the camera. So that way you can see the buttons in there. When you transform the positions, it's just like the X and the Y. The Z kind of doesn't make sense because it doesn't have like a deepness.
But to simulate
Usually.
that, they have layers, so
Mhm.
things appear before other things.
Right.
And of course, you can have multiple canvases.
Right, yeah. You can also have canvases that are actually on the world space. So you know in games that you have enemies and then the health bar is at the top of them, that's actually a real world space of the canvas. So that's actually an object in the 3D space. By default, it's not like that. By default, it's just something that's stick to the camera.
Yeah, plastic.
The
in front of it.
screen, actually.
The screen, yeah. Okay, so how to create a canvas? You can do a UI, right click, UI canvas, and it will actually make one for you. If you make any UI object, actually, you will notice that it will also automatically create a canvas and make a children of it, because again, you need a canvas to be able for these
do
objects to live,
anything.
right? Yeah.
When you create a canvas, it'll also automatically create an object called the event system, which
Yeah.
is,
It'll lead into buttons.
it handles like clicking buttons and
Right.
Handling raycasts like clicks into the entire canvas.
Something interesting to know about that event system and the bonus is that they are not time dependent. So usually the whole engine depends on something called timescale. Depending on the timescale, when you pass the game, you put that timescale to 0, so everything stops. But that event system is still running, which means that when you're on pause, you can still click buttons, right? Which is very beneficial for us because that allows us to do pause very easily in a game. Okay. So all your objects must be children of the canvas. We know that. You can have multiple canvases, like we said before. They can be. You may want to change the UI scale mode to scale with screen size.
Yeah, that's a common thing that the default here is actually a fixed size. So if you want something to always take a third of your screen, which is often what people making new UI tend to do, at least for the projects we have, you probably want to set that. It changes the numbers of everything else as you do it, so yeah, it's pretty important.
it's also annoying when like you're testing it and when you're testing it, you usually don't have it at like full screen.
Right.
But after you like build the game, you have it full screen, usually.
Yeah.
So it's better to like scale it, otherwise what you're testing it with will be different from when you actually build it and run it.
And you get errors of like, oh, this goes off screen because I didn't realize.
And if someone's using a bigger screen, then it will be different unless you scale it.
There's some things that actually help with testing this exact thing built into Unity, which is from the game tab, you can specify different like resolutions or aspect ratios to render the game at. So you can try like, oh, how does it work on an iPhone 5? You look up the iPhone 5's resolution and you put that in and it'll render exactly at that, and it'll show you how all your UI tries to shape up. In theory, if you have good anchoring and you plan for it, it should fit all the screens that you want to support, but I don't think every game will fit everything.
Hopefully we'll cover that later. If we don't, we'll just talk about it. But yeah, the anchors are very important because that's how you know when things are gonna change and how they're gonna stretch or not.
Yeah.
Okay. So UI objects is pretty basic. Yeah, the X moves the objects right or left, and the Y moves it up and down. There's no C, right? That makes sense because it's everything flat, unless it's like an actual world position. And it's right, like Kyle was talking about, it's based on layers, right? So oftentimes you can actually change the layer of a UI object, right? The bigger the layer, the more forward it is in the scene, and the smaller the layer, negative numbers, the more it is in the back. And how it does is that the camera looks at that index and it draws them in that amount of time. So if you have, for example, 2 objects, and it's like a background and a player, he actually renders the whole background first and draws that, and then it draws the player. Even though it's clocking it, it still draws everything else. So that's how it works.
Is there X minus and a Y minus?
Oh,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
add a
So,
subtract as well.
right, so positive would be right, minus would be to the left, up and down.
Yeah, the reason why this slide has X and Y is because, and not like exactly what it represents, is because based off that thing we told you earlier, whether or not it scales with your screen size, X either represents a portion of your screen size, like percentage, or it's literal pixel offset. It depends based off that setting, because that setting influences every child of that canvas.
And it's related to its pivot point, which is really important. The pivot point can be changed depending on the component. We're probably gonna get more into it, I hope. Yeah, okay. So what's the anchor, right? So if you have put a UI object ever, you will see that you have this weird magic thing. So that's your anchor. So I guess I can read the slide. When we select an UI object, we can see a shape consisting of 4 white triangles. We can drag these triangles or set them in rect transform. You can also actually separate them and have each one of them be their own different thing, and that has different behaviors. These 4 triangles represent 4 points in this UI parent object. They are set to different ratios. When the parent object is resized, their positions will be changed to make sure they are at the ratio that they are set to. I don't know. Do you know anything else about the anchors?
If you go to that URL, it'll show you like examples of how
Thank you.
it changes with where the anchors are. So like if you just keep them together, then it'll just stay or the
Fixed offset to that exact point.
That's why with the previous slides when we had X and Y, that X and Y plus is not based on the actual space of the world, it's actually based on your anchor. So if you put 5, it will always be -5 of your anchor, regardless of what your canvas shape is.
Okay, but if you scroll down, there should be more.
Yeah.
If you anchor it like that,
To a corner.
yeah, you can have it so that it moves with it.
Like, I don't know if you guys have done like programming, and
So is the anchor kind of just like a frame of reference for perspective?
it's like stickiness. That's where it's gonna be stick to.
It's useful if you want the if you're doing like having the canvas change size with different screen sizes, but since we are usually scaling the canvas, we don't have to worry about like stuff like that. And if you
Oh, so if you want like certain things to scale certain ways, like
Yeah.
how you resize it. Okay.
Right, like that there, right? They separate the anchor into 2 pieces once, so now it's gonna try to stay on that side and on that side. It's trying to like to have that width. So when you increase the canvas, it's also gonna increase the width of the canvas because you have those anchors right there. It's like stickiness. It's saying I'm gonna be stick to this side. So if you stick it to both sides, it's gonna try to stretch on both sides, right? Okay. Again, same thing. It will stretch depending on just on that ratio being stretched.
Yeah. A lot of complex behavior in UI is done through manipulating these anchors. Like if you want something to stick to a corner of your screen or a third of your screen to like try to organize content but go no further than that, you often set boxes and things like that based off anchors.
So there's a bunch of presets that you can use to actually modify your anchors. If you want it on the center, on the side, if you want it to expand throughout the whole screen horizontally, vertically, this one I like too. Is it makes it to be the whole size of the canvas or the panel that is on, so that way you can use the panel to know how big it's gonna stretch, things like that. Yeah. Okay. Right. So that's anchors. There's the anchor presets that we were talking about before.
Yeah, we basically just
Yeah.
trying to walk through what the inspector will show you for this.
You want me to show this video?
sure.
Video.
Give me a sec.
Oh,
Oh, it's you can watch
This
this
is
if
something
you
you
want.
can watch on the
Yeah. Do that. Text.
One of the most common pieces of UI that you'll have in a game is text. So you want text on a button, text on a screen, text in any form is the same component.
Right.
Text.
You're gonna notice again that it doesn't have a transform, it has a rect transform. Every UI element has this type of transform, which comes with the anchor component.
And if you actually in Unity create UI text, it will actually create 2 game objects in your canvas, a rect transform and a text.
or components.
Or-
Component.
These are separate game objects. I
Oh,
thought.
are they?
Yeah, the text is childed to the rect transform. What the rect transform is just a blank box, I think by default gray, and the text is on top of that. So that way, it is just, it's something, the text is on top of something already. It's readable based off that background. You can always just take it off and drag it wherever you want to go, but that's how it comes default when you create one.
Oh yeah, so rect transform, you'll notice also has a width and a height. You should like use width and height instead of the scale for using UI objects, because you can change the size without like stretching the contents of it. So like if you just want the text area to be bigger but you don't want to like stretch the text, that's what you use.
Let me open Unity so we can visually see this. I love visual help. Hi. So
Yeah, that's something I learned at the GameObject.
yeah.
UI.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a UI, and we're
So,
gonna make
hey,
the
the
text.
first thing you make, it'll make a whole canvas and everything.
So, well, where's
Oh.
the canvas?
There's the text. So it is two objects. It is the
Well,
text.
No, that's the canvas.
Right, it makes the canvas because you need any UI element to live in a canvas, right? And then in here we can
Well, where's
Wait.
the text?
Yeah, I
Oh,
was
there
mistaken.
it
I
is.
thought it would have a background.
right. No, it doesn't.
No, it
It
doesn't.
seems.
So when it generates the canvas, it makes like this huge thing off to the top right corner.
Right of your screen. Like if you see your actual world is very small. Like if you look at my camera, it's
Is
all
that-
the way
is
over
that
here.
tiny thing?
Yeah. And then your canvas is like super big because again, it doesn't care. It's not like it's gonna appear in your actual screen. It's in another complete, separate, isolated place, right? Which is the camera is just like a sticker slapping it into it.
Mhm.
So now look at the text. It's right there. It's anchored over there. So yeah, we can change, for example, to be up, down, right, everywhere. I like in the middle. You can also press Alt to actually move the actual object to. So if you press Alt, you can actually change also the position of it. It's very easy, yeah. And you also have Shift. And with Shift, you move the circle in the middle. That has also to do with some of the anchoring stuff. So you can have it in the left side. Like that, I think. So yeah. So text, font. Oh yeah, so if you increase the size of this, if you notice, the text is actually not gonna get any bigger, right? Because that's just how text behaves.
Because it's only just increasing the space that the text
Yes.
occupies. on
Right.
the text,
Exactly.
Exactly. So if we would have something like this, for example, let me make this way bigger and easier to see for everyone. Font size, let's do 75 because why not? And wow, look, it's gone, and it's because there's not enough space to actually write that. So now that we make it bigger, you can see it. But yeah, if we were to like make it smaller, you cannot see it anymore, right? Let's go with the slides. I think they're
Oh,
gonna.
one more thing. You
Yeah.
can actually like do a bit of formatting with text.
Oh yeah. So in here, there's like stuff like in Google Docs, alignments, centers, like my geometry, which is good all the time. The color. You can do best fit, which is really good if you have like weird shape strings.
No, I meant like
Oh, like the auto sizing.
no, you can like.
Oh, it allows markup.
Yes, that's what it's called.
So you can do like italics with like /I, or bold in this case with triangle brackets B.
Yeah, that's actually really helpful.
Any CSS type things that you know already, you can apply here.
Oh, but generally, you don't use text objects. We use Text Mesh Pro because that's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very popular thing that you can use that replaces this, because this text doesn't look good in a lot of situations. Like if you zoom in too much, it looks blurry, or there's just more settings if you import Text Mesh Pro, which is a free asset on the asset store that a lot of people use.
Yeah, I recommend using Text Mesh Pro because it has more options. It looks prettier. It's actually more performance friendly. And text, when you make it very small or very big, it starts to be pixelated. While Text Mesh Pro does not.
Yeah.
So Text Mesh Pro is superior in any shape or form, and it behaves the exact same way. So
You can also reference individual letters as their own like freestanding object. So if you want to do like animation on your actual text, like shape letters or something like that, you can do that with Text Mesh Pro, whereas by default Unity text, you have to make each letter its own object, and that's a mess.
Okay. Cool. And again, it has the same features. You can put it in the middle, center.
It has more features.
It has even more
Yeah.
features. You can do different styles. You can do a lot of stuff. You can go crazy with it. You can outline it.
Oh, it allows like
Yeah.
the text to flow outside the box. Like it won't, before you saw Unity, whenever it like had text too much that the box couldn't fit, it wouldn't do that, but here, this by default, it'll overflow. You can tell it to not do that if you specifically want to make sure your text never goes outside a box, but that is allowed here.
You can also like tell it to do different things when it overflows.
Mhm.
Mhm.
What else?
Buttons.
Okay, before we go to that. So what you can do sometimes is that if you change the size, it's kind of annoying or wasteful that the text doesn't take that space. So what you can do is that if you do auto size, now the text is actually going to follow your
More
size.
constraining
Yeah.
thing.
So now if you actually have different resolutions, the text is also going to accommodate to that and make the size that it needs to be. Right. Cool. Okay, buttons.
That's amazing.
So buttons are very special. Why? Because we can actually give them functionalities very easily through the console. We can tell it, when you press this button, I don't know, make something cool happen, right? So we can just make one. Let me see. Sure, okay, cool.
He's showing about assigning an inspector. We can talk about that in a moment.
Right, so UI, right, everything is under here. We make a button. If you notice, the button is gonna have already a text under it.
Oh, this is what I was thinking about with the whole background by default.
Yeah. If you make Text Mesh Pro, because we are pros, of course, it's gonna have already a Text Mesh Pro on it instead, right?
Mhm.
So
That seems to be the only difference.
yeah. So here's the button. So anything that you have can be a button. The only difference between a button and an image is that it's basically just an image. It has the image sprite component, which tells us how it should look like, right? So we can make it like a red button. But the main difference is that we only add a button component, which is what allows us to make it interactable. So if we look in the game, maybe if I try to play, you can already even see that it's interactable if I try to click it, right? While if you make an image, UI, image, right? All we will need to do for this one is just to add a component
Mhm.
and
Button
put
component.
button component.
Just the button component just lets you like click it and
Yeah.
You'll
Yeah.
notice it like fading to gray here as you interact with it.
Yeah.
That's because by default the button component has these different shaded colors for different states of the button. I think Unity allows you to, by default, like have hover and click as different here, and you
Yep.
can set those yourself. You can also group buttons if you want to have like keyboard controls to go through a menu of things, and it will use these same colors for highlighting when you're over a current one, or when you select with enter, or what have you.
Yep. So again, right, Unity is a very component-based engine, right? So a button is nothing special. It just has a button component. You can make any UI that you make have a button by just having that component, and you can go ham with it.
also if you make an image and it covers the button, then you can't actually click it. If you do that, if you want to like have the event system ignore it, you can. There's the part that says raycast target in the component. If you disable that, then it will ignore it when it does the checking.
So what happens is that when you click a button, what the logic actually runs is that from your camera, it looks at the position on the camera and it shoots a laser into the world, and then it checks where you're touching. So right now we have a text in here, right, like an image without a component. So I'm trying to touch the button and it's not touching it. But in here it does, right? We can see it clicking. So it's getting on the way because the raycast is touching that image first, right? So what we can do is what Cont just said, which is go to the image, and we can say in here, raycast target. So we can turn it off, and now if I click on it, it's actually clicking. Yeah. Can you see it all the way? Do you want me to make it bigger?
No, it's fine.
Okay. So,
We could probably move on to how to make a button do something. 'Cause
Yeah.
there's an interactable system's nice and all, but unless a button does something, it doesn't help.
Right. Okay. So, I guess we can follow the slides. So, yeah. So nothing happens when we click it. Oh God, let me use. Okay.
Yeah. So.
Wait, yeah. Let's ignore that. Okay. So, so what you can do with a button, right? Like it's all cool and that, but if you see in here, there's this very interesting field that says on click. So in here we can actually put what we want the button to do, right? It's very nicely set up for Unity. So if we click in here in plus, we add a new object, and now we can tell it what to do, right? And it actually has some very common functionalities already set up. So for example, let's say we want that when we press this button to turn off this text that we have right here, that's better text, right? We can do that very easily without even writing code. All we have to do is grab this text object, put it on the object that we want to modify when we click an event, and then in here, it already has some predetermined stuff that most of the Unity objects have. So there's this thing called GameObject, and we can put set active, which is a Boolean, right? Let me move this. Can I move this up?
What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to move this up so everybody can see it, but whatever. So in here, I have a toggle that is off. That means that when I click this button, this object is going to become inactive, right? So now if I click play, let me actually bring the button pretty high up so we can all see it. Let me make it bigger.
You can move the inspector window above things as well if you want.
Right. I mean,
where the hierarchy is.
I mean, I'm going to go into the game anyways. But yeah, so now that we have that set up, when I click the button, whoop, text disappears. It's that easy by just connecting it with that, right? So of course, you can do more things with it. You can actually pass it your own scripts. And when you pass it your own script, you can actually run whatever function you want from your code. The only thing is that it has to be a public function, so you can actually access it. So this is helpful because then we can have things like a pause, and then when you click a button that says quit game, we actually run a function that we wrote that says exit the system, right? System.exit or system.quit. You can actually have multiple of them, so you can just click plus, and you can keep adding more functionalities into it. The only thing though is that it doesn't do anything like it does all of them at once. It doesn't really have like an order. You won't know which one will happen first. You cannot do things like, oh, after this has happened, do this. It doesn't have any priority. It just does them all.
So if you have logic that requires order being preserved, it's probably good to manage that yourself in code, where the button will call one thing, and your one function has what you want it to call in order.
Mm-hmm.
So once it's in C# code and functions, it'll go as you tell it to do.
Cool. I think that's all this, yeah. Image, we already went through the image, I think.
Yeah.
Scenes.
Oh no, there's something important on that last
Oh.
slide.
Oh.
So by default, if you don't do layering, whatever's lower in the canvas, that top to bottom order is the order it's going to draw in. So the lower it is, the later it is in drawing. So see how the text is overlapping with this here? If you drag the text TMP at the top there down to the bottom, it'll show up above the button still, because they're drawn in that top to bottom order.
You can also obviously fight that if you're doing here things that go layer.
It's its own component.
You see it? I don't know if it's this one. No, it's not this one.
That's deprecated.
I think it's the sprite.
Like how the button shows up above the text.
Right. Oh, it's right here. So there's this thing called sorting group.
Oh,
Let me see first.
it was purple, wasn't it?
Right. So then you can actually now dictate the layers. So if this object has a order, and then the other one also has one, now we can actually override that rule. So if we're doing here, I don't know, 2, and then in bottom, the sorting group, and then we do 3. Ha, ha, ha. I don't know why it's not working.
Sorting group might be something separate from rendering.
Right.
Oh, well, I noticed in starting group we also have to select the layer.
Oh, but they're both in default. I believe. Oh, but they're not in default right now. They're both in UI. You're right. Wait, actually, are they? Oh yeah, they are. So every object that that's important too. Every UI that you make is gonna by default put it on the layer UI. So should I cover this?
I think we should move on. We can cover it later.
All right.
Because this is kind of, don't want to get lost in the weeds.
Okay.
I'm familiar with layers.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's another thing that's also really nice that I'd like to talk to if we get to more time, which is content size fitter and groups.
Right.
But
So scenes, we all should be familiar with scenes right now, right? They're basically like mini levels, sections of game that we can like load and come out and traverse through, right? It contains specific information about specific areas, levels, buildings, etc. We need scenes because of the limited amount of hardware resources that we have, right? We don't want everything to be living in one scene because that can be very like
memory intensive.
right?
And processing intensive. It's just slow
Right.
on both fronts, potentially.
Yes. So, we're moving
Sorry,
to scenes.
I like.
Oh, that was you.
Yeah.
So, I guess we're gonna go over scenes.
Yeah, we're changing a bit from the world of UI and now just talking about loading scenes.
So there's a function that you can run in Unity to change scenes, which is SceneManager.LoadScene, and that's how you change the current scene to move on to another scene. So what you can pass it is you can pass it to parameters. You can pass it either a string or an index. The string will be the name of the actual scene that you wanted to transition to.
Like the scene file name that you have already when you
Right.
made it.
So if you have a scene and you call it main menu, and you have a scene called main scene, if you load scene main scene, it will go into the main scene. While index is based on your build settings. So
What's build setting?
what is build settings? So when you're building a game, you actually need to incorporate those scenes into your build parameters, which is in build settings. And in here, we need to actually add all the scenes that we want to add in our build. So in here we have scene sample scene, and as you can see, it's on index 0. So this will be the scene 0. If we made another scene, we will actually have to click add open scenes, and then it will add that other scene into the game. The index 0 is the one that the game will start on by default. So usually you want that to be your main menu or a booting scene if you have a lot of logic in your code that you want to run first.
Is it possible to add a scene without having it open in Unity?
Yeah, you can load that's what load scenes does basically. It shoots one off and it loads another one. There's also more advanced versions of this, which is load scene asynchronously, which lets you load a scene on top of another scene. So you can have both of them running at once. Yeah, you can do many things with that. When you're making a system, if it's a big game, I would recommend actually using the string instead of the index, because as you build your game, the order of these things might change, and now you have to change your code, and you might find yourself having bugs when you don't know what's happening. If you do by string, it's actually more reliable. Yeah. So recommend string, but you can use whatever you feel free to do. Okay. So yes, right there we can load in called game. We add them to the build settings like we were talking about before.
Oh yeah, this exists in its own namespace, so you have to import it at the beginning of your C# files if you're going to be messing with this yourself. So in order to even recognize the function load scene, you have to do this exact line, use Unity engine.SceneManagement.
So we can do that. So we're gonna create a script. Huh?
Oh, you have to do it in
Yeah.
yes and yes.
Great.
Top.
Here's your script. Scene. Okay, scene changer. We open it up. So let's see. So we have in live mode. I hate it. Okay, so we have using, right? So using is basically like an API, right? You have a lot of functionality in there. So to actually start using those functions, we have to do using Unity engine.SceneManager.
Scene management.
Huh?
I don't think autocomplete's working on this. If you just type scene management, it should do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What you can do if the Unity is set up incorrectly and it's very annoying to fill up everything, you can actually just go into Unity and do assets, open C# project, and now it should open the whole scripts with the whole Unity folders in it. So now we can see in the side all the assets and logs and stuff like that. This lets you find references, and it's just better to code with this. It's a tip. So now in here we can do a function called LoadScene.
Yeah, if you want to make that a public void, we can tie it into the button object.
Perfect. We can make it public, except that I cannot type. Okay. And now we can pass it in here a string if we wanted to pass it I guess we can do an int. And now in here we can do
And you need a name for that in.
right. I'm trolling.
There you go.
So argument index. And now in here we can do load scene. And we can pass it the argument. It's that easy. Right.
There are two dots in the use state. Sorry.
Right. And then we tell these things to shut up. Because I don't care. Alright, so we have our function, very beautiful. It loads a scene, very simple, right? It's a public. So what we're gonna do is that we're actually gonna add it to a button, right? To connect those things together. We probably need a scene first, so we're gonna go into our
Probably
scene.
a second scene.
Yeah.
So
Create
something else to load.
scene, please. Where are you? Oh, it's right here. And we're gonna call it cool scene because it's cool. I like cool stuff. So we're gonna load it. Cancel. Actually, I'm just gonna save the scene in here. We have to add it to the build settings because otherwise, right, we don't have it.
You would go to it first in order to hit that button.
Or drag it. And that way you save yourself seconds. Pro tips. Alright, so now what you can do is you can look at the button right here, and now we can add our very cool script. But we cannot just drag a script. We actually need a game object on our actual world space, right? Which means that we need to create a new object, and we're gonna add the script that we made. Right. So we have that. So now we can go to our button and drag the game object into it. So now we're actually gonna see one more thing. Before we only had game object and transform. Now we have scene changer, which is actually the name of our C# script, which now shows us a lot of common things that Unity can allow you to do, plus any method that we have made that is public. So in here now we have
Don't see it.
I'm a liar. I'm full of crap.
Let's see why.
So public load scene. I think it's because it's called the same name.
Oh yeah, you need to be angry about
VGDC
that.
load scene. Okay. So now.
I think you need to save it again.
Oh,
Oh, from VS Code for it to compile correctly. Oh no, there's an error.
oh. Scene management does not exist. Oh, scene manager.
Right, what's different than the actual thing you need to care about?
I
That is dumb.
hate ID.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's
Yeah.
not auto completing. I'm a fraud, you guys. I'm getting carried by my autocomplete code. Alright, cool.
We all are.
I think we all get carried by honestly.
It is necessary to bridge the gaps.
So
It
now,
cripples me.
yes, it is there. So VGDC load scene. It passes an integer. The reason why I did an int is because it's very easy for me in here to pass it a number.
Right.
So what you're gonna notice is that button has a limitation. It doesn't actually let you put any type of parameters. So if you have a method that takes, for example, a unique object that you have made, you cannot just add it to the button because it doesn't take those parameters. So you gotta make sure that you pass either an int, a string, no parameter, or a float, and a bool. Those are all the ones that it can take for a
So
button.
only
Primitives are strings.
Yeah. The reason why is because the onClick is actually a delegate. If you don't know what a delegate is, don't worry about it. But if this helps you in any way, it's a delegate.
Also, I think it's because they only have so many property drawers by default in Unity. Like, it knows how to draw a string and allow you to input to it. It does not know how to draw a student object,
Mm-hmm.
so they don't try.
So we're gonna load scene 1, right? Because in the build settings we put cool scene as number 1. So now if we play the game and we click that button, it should actually give me $1,000. And he lost the other scene, sadly, but that's exactly what we wanted to do, right? So we can see now that we're in cool scene, right? And of course there's nothing in here, but you know, it is what it is. What you could do is that you can do load scene
Async.
asynchronously.
We should put some cool scene.
And then we do it
See it show up.
I need autocomplete. I'm not gonna do it. I don't trust myself enough.
Is it lone seed? No. I'll look it up.
Yeah, there's a term, you have to pass another parameter that is additive, which lets you actually not close the current scene and load the other scene on top of the other scene. And you might ask yourself, why the hell would you want to have two scenes at the same time? And the reason why is because sometimes when you're making a game, you want to load things one at a time. So for example, at first, you want to load your whole level. So you actually load a scene, which is all your level logic. And then after that, you want to now load maybe the players. So now you load the scene that has the player logic. And then
There you go. If you want to add,
Right.
edit.
And then after that, you can then load the player logic. So you are actually very modular and put all the logic of each manager into their own scene. Why this is helpful is because sometimes in Unity, you can do .find GameObject, right, of a name. But what that does is that it goes through your whole scene and it looks for it. So if you have 1,000 objects in your scene, that can be very slow and bad to do. But if you load your scenes one by one, maybe when you load your player, there's only barely like 3 objects in your scene. So when you do find object of type player, now it's only 3 objects, so you're actually really fast. So that way, what you do is that you connect everything at the beginning of your game. And this is why we have loading scenes on games, because that's how people do it. They first load scenes one by one and do heavy work at the beginning to have a load scene, and after that everything is connected and the game can be very smooth and like this. So we're gonna try to do that right now. So we're gonna do scene, load scene,
It's just the current thing. we
right. So we can do in here, huh?
Careful.
Load scene mode dot additive, and that should do it. So now if we go into the game, play. It said that I have compilers. Why do I have compilers? You see,
There's an E in load. You
Oh.
just gotta get rid of that.
yeah, my fingers gonna be the death of me. So now if we click play,
Uh,
we see that we are right now on our sample scene.
we should put something in cool scenes so that way we can see it load in.
Well, we'll see it right here. So we click the button, boop, cool scene is now also there. So any object that was in cool scene will also be added, and they're both living there at the same time. Powerful, very powerful. Prefabs, instantiate. God, okay. So I guess we can start with prefabs. So what's a prefab? So sometimes when you are working in Unity, you might find yourself copy pasting the same object over and over again. That's very painful. Nobody wants to do that. So what you can do is that you can make a prefab. A prefab is basically a template of an object. So that way you can have many copies of them and you can put them on your scene. That is one use of them. Another very good use for them is that you can have objects stored not currently being inside of a scene. You want your scene to be very empty, you have it empty, so you make a prefab that is in your engine, like a player. And then when you load the game, maybe then you want to make a player appear out of nowhere. So there's some trade-offs on that, but that's one of also its main uses. So in here you can see prefabs actually appear on blue text, right? We can make one right now. So right now all this button, it's just lame and blue and black. And now what we can do, if we move it into anywhere in our project and we add it, now it's turned blue because now it became a prefab. That means that now I can bring many copies of them and just put them in here, and we can actually see that we have many of them. Oh yeah, see right now you cannot see it, it's because it's not on the canvas. We added to the canvas, now we can see it. They need to live on the canvas to be able to be rendered.
Another good thing about prefabs is that because when you drag your instance of an object to the asset database, it no longer exists in any scene. So if you want a player to be able to exist in scene A and scene B separately, you don't have to make it in both places. You could just drag your prefab to each, or through code create the object in either scene.
For an object lives in Unity, it's dependent on the scene. The moment that the scene dies, the object also dies. Unless we actually run in code don't destroy on load or on change scene, which that will make it perceive. And what it actually does is that it will actually add it to another scene called don't destroy on load. So it's actually teleported to another scene, not the one that you actually started from. So yeah, our object has to always be attached to a scene. Prefabs, that's not the case. They don't care. They're cool. Cool guys. Except when they're not, and I hate them, but life. So instantiate. So this is how we're actually gonna make prefabs appear in the scene without being attached to a specific scene. We can do that through code. So we're gonna go to our same script because I'm lazy. I'm just gonna write another script in here, another method. It's gonna be instantiate button. Okay. And now here, what we're gonna do is to instantiate, which is not gonna autofill because I hate my life. And we have so instantiate takes can take many parameters. By default, it takes one parameter, which is the object that you want to instantiate, right? Which means we need a reference to it. So what we can do is that we can just pass it one. We can just do button. So what that does, it just lets me look up privates in the inspector because I hate publics, but I want to see them in the inspector, and privates you don't see them. So if you put serialized field, it actually shows it to you in the inspector. So now if we go into the game, it should appear right there. Magic, please, please appear, please, please, please.
It's yelling at you about your method.
Did I save it? Save. I have a bug. I have a bug, huh? Yeah, I
Well,
do.
did you say it as a void? It's yelling about the return type. So the function
Oh.
below. Yeah.
I'm dumb. There you go. I don't know any programming, guys.
He knows a lot of programming, guys.
I don't know why I'm here. Okay.
Dude, it's okay. We all need our autocomplete.
Right, I hate this. Oh, it's because I'm not passing anything here, so this is an error. But then VS Code decided to be a freaking annoying. Okay, there you go. Now it's compiling, and now it's gonna appear. Yes, it's there. So now we can put whatever object we want because we put GameObject. Every single so mono behavior actually is a child of GameObject. So every single thing that has a mono behavior is probably gonna be a GameObject, which means that any prefab that you make is gonna be a GameObject.
Anything that was made by Unity, derives from anything in Unity, is part of Unity, is a game object. Almost certainly.
So
the
now
only way you're not a game object is if you make a C# class yourself.
Which is basically just going right here and taking out this.
And now
Right.
it's just scene changer, the
Right.
standalone class.
So that's raw C# we call it. But okay, we have mono behavior, so it's a button. We grab this guy, put it here, boop, we have it. So now that button is referring to that prefab that we have. So now what we can do is that we can instantiate it. We can do boop, button. And now what we can do is that we can make buttons, instantiate buttons, and then we can become powerful. So let's delete that one, go here. This is like recursion, this is like
Well,
Sure.
I mean, they're not going to be in the canvas, so you can't click any other buttons that you make
Oh, but we
until
can-
you drag them into the canvas.
yeah, but we can see
Then
them.
it
we
will
can
be
see-
infinite.
Where is it? Where is it? Instantiate button. Alright. So now we play. And then now we click the button. And you guys don't believe me, right? Because you guys don't believe in me. But they're right there. So there's the proof. They're right there. You can make many of them. Another thing that you can do with instantiate, what it's doing right now is that it's instantiating them on the preset transform position and rotation of the object. So if we look at the button, it already has a position. So it tries its best to put it there, even though it's not on a canvas, and it tries to say, I think you want me to be in position 300 of the world, and it's panicking and doing all this dumb shit stuff. So, sorry. What you can do in instantiate is pass it another two parameters. You can give it a transform, position, and a rotation. So to do that, we just have to write in here a vector 3, which will be your position in space. So we can just do vector 3.0, which is gonna be the origin of the world, which is 0, 0, 0. And then we pass it a rotation. If we want to have the rotation that the object came with, we just do quaternion.identity. So quaternion is just what Unity is, this magic thing that Unity has that handles rotations. That's all you have to know. I hate quaternions. I hate them.
They sound all great.
It scares me. It has two real numbers and two
terrifying.
imaginary numbers, and it does those calculations to the rotation. It's not bueno. Yeah, no. Okay. I think this is it. Unless identity is with a capital I, and I hate
Wow,
VS
you're
Code.
right, it's lowercase I.
That's
It's what-
more.
Okay. Yeah. So now if I play,
I didn't get that badly.
yeah, we can go over that. I mean, we know it's just tengo miedo. It's scary. Okay. So I create an object. We look at it, and its position is 0, 0, 0 in it. So I'm not lying to you, I swear, even though I don't know where it is, because it's not on the canvas. But we put it on the canvas, boop, it's right there. In position, I guess that's 0, 0, 0, which makes sense.
That's the origin of your world.
That's the origin of the world. Yeah. So now we So now we can instantiate objects and we can put them anywhere we want, and we can put any position that we want, and we can instantiate scenes, and scenes can have objects, and we have endless possibilities to make a game.
I think I had 33 projects.
Right, 33?
I had an object that made itself.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then making itself.
Yeah, and just keep instantiating recursively. Power. There you go, there's a position, the quaternion, don't worry about
There's
it.
other forms of instantiate. That's one of the most useful things I think the documentation's for. There's like 7 overloads to it. You
Yeah.
can do things like, oh, instantiate it, but make sure it's a child of the canvas so that way the button works, or
Mhm.
things like that.
Yeah. Oh, he did exactly what I did. Nice. Quit game. How do you quit your game? Such a big question. There, right there, super easy. You just make Application.Quit. If you run that on Unity, it's not gonna do anything. But if you actually make a build and then you click the button, it will actually
Yeah.
stop the game. Yeah.
I think there's a call to Unity that you can make to tell Unity, hey, stop play mode, but
Why would you want to do that to yourself? Okay. Challenges. Well, are we up to this?
oh,
Do we usually do
I
challenges?
don't know if we have time, but
I'm-
these are things you can do if you want
I
to
made
test
a
your
main
knowledge.
menu during the game jam.
Oh, okay. Huh.
I made a light counter.
Frame counter, make a simple HUD as it plays the current frame rate. Oh, okay, that's whatever. Oh, okay. So I guess in other words, how much time do we have? Can we cover more cool stuff? It's 1:48. How long does usually this last?
So 150.
1:50. Oh, we have 2 minutes then. We did perfect. This is perfect. Any questions? You guys have any questions? Anything you wanna ask? No. Okay. I guess a good way to think about things, because usually people overthink about things. A prefab is just data, and it's just data being in a hierarchy of children and parents. Scenes are the exact same thing. It's just data with parents and children. That's it. They're not anything special. They're not aliens. That's it. Cool. Thanks for coming, guys.
Alright,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for whoever is listening. If I said any bad words, that was not me. That actually was edited.
It was me in the audience.